Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, obviously enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. This is a live show 1341. If you are not familiar with the show, usually we hang out and talk about the latest in tabletop role-playing game news, and then I will tackle a topic related to the hobby. For the most part, that's usually the format of the show. Every once in a while, I might share a review live or share a first look live, which is what I was originally going to be doing tonight. I was going to share a live first look, but something happened last night. I will get into that in just a few moments. So tonight, no live first look. I apologize. I mentioned it last night. We're going to take a look at Old School Tactical, Volume 5 from Flying Pig Games. That is no longer on the agenda. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the show, like I said, very casual, just hanging out, having a good time. We are certainly not engaged in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to see here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Semper Buffo is with us, as is Keith Thulhu, Michael Berry, Troy Cornelson. Lenny Blade has popped on in, so welcome aboard all. I see chat is rocking and rolling already. So tonight, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Last night, got a phone call from my best friend, Elliott Miller, who I mention all the time. He's the founding member of the Gaming Gang, my best friend for, what are we at now, 45 years? Or so. I think it's a little more than 45 now. Anyway, called me up to tell me his brother passed away. And it was not something that came as a surprise. I mean, he had been ill for quite a while. But still, I was like, hate that. For one, I never know what to say. I mean, that's, the reality, like most people, kind of like, but he's my best friend. His family is like my second family. I'm kind of like an honorary member of the Miller clan and have been since I was about 14 years old. So yes. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some of the gaming memories I have of Elliott's brother, Thomas Lucky Miller. And might bring a smile. Might kind of crack you up a little bit. Now, I will point out, he wasn't like some huge gamer. His one friend, I recall, was. And also, Elliott's brother was like 14 years older than him. So it wasn't like, like my brother's 2.5 years older. There came there came a point like when I was in my late teens and that it was suddenly like, oh, well, yeah, okay. I could hang out with my brother. But, yeah, we'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit. So I will point out right up front, thank you very much for any of the condolences you might mention in chat. So just wanted to say that right up front. Anyway, let's see who else we got popping on in. Mark Hawkswell is with us. Harvey Chuckles, DB, Keith Luz saying pleasure doing business with me because we do have the used game sale going on right now. There are hundreds of role-playing games, board games, war games, you name it. And they are going for rocking prices, and all proceeds will be donated to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. I'll talk a little bit about that a bit later on. Sarkwan and Peaceful Porcupine are both with us as well. So we're going to dive on into the news as usual. I got to be honest, this might be a bit shorter show than usual. Just letting you know. Also, next week, schedule of the show is going to be kind of crazy. I don't know I don't think there'll be a show on Wednesday. I don't know if there'll be a show on Tuesday. I have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, and then the services for Elliott's brother are going to be on Wednesday. So we'll see. Stay tuned. If you follow me on social media, I always kind of give you a heads up on what is cooking. All right, so let's jump on into news because Wizards of the Coast has now begun taking pre-orders for Dungeons & Dragons Arcana Unleashed. I've got the scoop. In a society imbued with magic, the arcane shapes the texture of every day, defining culture, livelihood, and your very identity. Yet there are those who seek to corrupt it and bend it to their own will. Will you dare to rise against them? The ultimate bundle for this includes digital and physical versions of Arcana Unleashed, containing 8 arcane subclasses, 30 spells, over 45 feats, 10 backgrounds, 9 arcane factions, 6 group patrons, and more than 45 magical items, including new evolving magic items, as well as a level 1 introductory adventure. Digital and physical. Yeah, let's just put digital and physical together. It's digital. Yikes. Digital and physical versions of Arcana Unleashed Deadfall is a high-stakes level 11 through 20 adventure to stop the Lich Zastam before he unleashes a demonic undead horde upon Thay. Yeah, they're the Red Wizards of Thay. So what? Wipe them all out. Come on. Digital and physical versions of the Unleashed map pack is part of the Ultimate Bundle. Plus, there's a digital pre-order bonus, the Arcane Mastery digital dice set, Dungeon Masters Arcana Unleashed play-along pack, D&D Encounters Red Wizards Gambit mini adventure as well. Now, the Ultimate Digital Bundle, once again, it's digital and physical, carries an MSRP of $129.99. The physical book's MSRP is $49.99. And of course, if you just want to score the book digitally over at D&D Beyond, it will be $29.99. So there you've got the next major release for D&D, and I believe release date is September. Because if I remember correctly, I think the release date is 68 days away. So there you have it. And once again, some more folks sharing their condolences to Elliott and his family. So thank you very much on that. Like I said, I'm going to kind of thank everybody right up front. And that way, every 2 seconds, I'm not, going, oh, well, thank you for that. Let's see. Richard Harris, Laconic Lane, Kathy Evans have also joined us. Zarquan's with us. Did I say hello to Zarquan? Yes, I did. I said, well, you get a bonus hello. So there you have it. All right, on to our next news piece. The Twilight Sword Starter Set is now available in PDF from Two Little Mice and Free League Publishing, and I've got the latest. Twilight Sword is an adventure role-playing game inspired by classic video games like The Legend of Zelda, Dragon Quest, Wonder Boy in Monsterland. I'm actually not familiar with that. Final Fantasy no Kuni and the animated movies of Studio Ghibli. In Twilight Sword, players take on the role of champions, brave heroes who depart on a dangerous journey to bring back hope to a once peaceful land that is being threatened by an evil scourge. The Twilight Sword starter set includes a booklet with all the basic rules, an introductory campaign, the Twilight Trials. I believe it is played out over 3 acts. 6 pre-made champion sheets, over 70 cards, including items, weapons, monsters, spells, and NPCs. You'll also find a map of Twilight Island. And of course, the physical box set also includes dice and tokens. And the 4-sided die is one of those kind of like gem dice. You'll see it in just a second. It's not the little kind of pyramid die that you step on and you go, ah, son of a. So there is that. Now, the box set with PDF is going to carry an MSRP of $39.99. It's supposed to arrive in stores in October, which I find to be kind of strange because I thought the core book for Twilight Sword is now out. At least that was the information I had when I shared the news piece yesterday. I do know the PDF is out. There's, I think, 3 or 4 PDFs for Twilight Sword that are currently out over at DriveThruRPG. And if you want to get the starter set, it's only $14.99 in PDF. Not bad. As I mentioned last night, I wouldn't mind taking a peek at the Twilight Sword role-playing game. I like the art. The art looks kind of cool. It's got like little cat folk in it and like giant penguins and stuff like that. Could be fun. And I see Tessie Trekkie is with us tonight. Welcome aboard. Danny Gable is also joining us in chat. Moving right along, let's talk about a money-saving deal because Vast Grimm is featured in a new bundle of holding, and I've got the deets on the deal. You poor doomed meatbag. You need this all-new Vast Grimm bundle featuring, you guessed it, Vast Grimm, Brian Collins' standalone Curation tabletop role-playing game of bizarre space opera horror inspired by the art punk fantasy RPG Mirkberg. It's 663 years since the 6 devout disciples raided the primordial mausoleum of They and unleashed a plague. 6 strains of parasitic worms that infected most of humanity. Those consumed by the larva mutate into a zombie-like alien hive mind known as the Grimm. You've joined other desperate survivors in a legion because there's strength in numbers, and also you hope at least one of your crew is slower than you are. In Vast Grimm, you play a Manchin. I think it's supposed to be like machine. Soul survivor, lost technomaniac, twisted biochemist, emobot. I thought it was emoji. It's emobot or treacherous merc. Maybe all of them in sequence because these walking targets die fast and gruesomely. Good thing there's an online Vastgrim character generator. But with their irritating idiosyncrasies and battle scars for that extra level of filth, techno-magical tributes that implode in cataclysmic condemnations and addictive drugs like Rocket Stick and Berserker Stim, your hapless crews, Guardians of the Galaxy fighting alien parasites and the Reavers from Firefly, live lives as bright as the lime green neon pink spreads of those psychotronic adventures. Try to save what's left of humanity, earn enough cred sticks to go out gloriously, or build a gate of infinite stars so you can escape this life before it collapses. This all-new Vastgrim bundle gives you almost the entire line to date. Everything you need to fight frenzied battles for survival as the universe inches closer to inevitable demise. It'll be fun. For just $9.95, you'll get all 7 complete titles in the Vastgrim collection, which has a retail value of $70, as DRM-free PDFs, including the Pay What You Want Vastgrim Skeleton Crew rules, also available as a free Skeleton Crew PDF, the introductory adventure A Grim Outlook, the adventure sourcebooks No Safe Haven, Helltrap Barges, and Into the Asteroid, the Grim Solitude solo rules, as well as the 28mm Skirmish Miniatures rulebook, Squirmish. These independent productions by Creature Curation are not affiliated with Occult or Smaster Games or Stockholm Cartel. They're actually published under the Mjorkberg third-party license. These savings run through July 28th. I have heard some good things. I've heard some good things about Vastgrim. We almost had an opportunity to maybe check it out. I know we were kind of going back and forth a little bit as far as maybe reviewing the core book and that, but never came to fruition. Ah, well. But hell, $9.95? That sounds like there's a good amount of gaming there. This does look like it has a very serious art punk vibe to it, although I have not actually got to dive into the interiors. Moving right along, following a successful crowdfunding run, the classic ElfQuest box set is now available. I've got the lowdown from our friends over at Chaosium Inc. Stalk the forest with your wolf friend. Foil the Five Fingers traps with your keen senses. Outsmart the trolls. Be a wolf rider on the world of Two Moons. But the wolf riders lost their forest halt to hostile humans, prompting the search for a new home and other elves. Their story is chronicled in ElfQuest, the popular pictorial series. I would have said comic series, but that's okay. Now you can visit that world through the ElfQuest role-playing game. Guess we should say you can visit that world once again. The box set includes the Elf Book, the World Book, the ElfQuest Companion, Sea Elves, and Elf War, as well as a map of the world of Two Moons and a map of the world of Abode. Numerous play aids, character sheets, as well as dice. There's even a 3-panel GM screen, standees, and character portraits. Additional bonus content includes new magic, new creatures, new characters, and bonus art. The box set with PDFs carries an MSRP of $99.99. If you want to grab just the PDF, or I guess, yeah, you know what? I think it is one big, no, maybe it's not. I was going to say, maybe it's one big PDF. I think it's all separate PDFs, but it probably a zip file of them. You can grab that over at Drive Through RPG for $49.99. I had the original ElfQuest box set. I don't recall if I picked up anything else for the RPG. And it's funny because I remember I bought it and then I was heading over to Elliott's house. I don't know, maybe I'm 15 on the bus, and I cracked it open, started reading it because that's one thing I always did. I always read on the bus, newspaper, book, anything. If someone had thrown me a cereal box, I would have been reading that while riding public transportation. But yeah, I remember picking up the box set, and I had a clue what ElfQuest was, but I had not read like the graphic novels or the comics or anything like that. I did after I picked up the role-playing game. So there is that. All right, let's talk about our final news piece tonight. The Solo Player's Companion for Shadowdark is available in PDF. Here's the latest from Phillip Reed Games. Dive into the darkness on your own with the release of the Solo Player's Companion for Shadowdark from Phillip Reed Games, now available in PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Designed to enhance solo play for the popular Shadowdark RPG, the supplement is being developed using a living document approach. So buyers who purchase the PDF during July will actually receive updates as new content is added throughout the month, allowing you to follow the book's developments essentially in real time. Originally planned to launch at 144 pages with the goal of surpassing 200 before completion, the project has already grown substantially. The current PDF clocks in at 198 pages, reflecting the ongoing expansion of the companion, as well as additional material being incorporated. Once development is complete, Phillip Reed Games plans to release a print-on-demand edition. Customers who purchase the PDF before the end of the development period will receive a discount code for the print version, provided they follow the publisher on DriveThruRPG and have their email notifications enabled. Rather than focusing on promotional copy during development, Phillip Reed has chosen to prioritize expanding the book itself, promising a full description of its contents once the project reaches its final form. As I mentioned, the Solo Player's Companion for Shadowdark is clocking in right now at 198 pages. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $12, making it an affordable option for players looking to explore the dangers of Shadowdark without the need of a full adventuring party and, more importantly, a GM. All righty, so that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a 5% commission on most sales. And all those commissions really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you're watching live and taking part in chat, be sure to hit the little heart or the 100% or the, I don't know, it's like a bundle of flowers or something like that. Show a little engagement. And of course, if you happen to be watching on a mobile device and you got a few hype points floating around, sprinkling a few on here is always appreciated. And of course, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang, if you find the outlet to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just enjoy what we do, got a few other ways that you can help support us. And one is by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yummy. And of course, you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links to all that down in the show notes. Also in the show notes, you'll find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up. Be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Then, of course, once again, I will mention we are in the midst of the summer 2026 used game sale. There are hundreds, no joke, hundreds of board games, war games, role-playing games, all at rock bottom prices. And cool thing is, all proceeds from this sale are going to be donated to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. This isn't a 50-50 sale like I did once before. All proceeds are going to be going to St. Jude's. So there you have it. All right, let's see who has popped on into chat. I think we've probably got one or two people who've popped on in. W. Forge and Dr. Waits are both with us. Very nice. Keith Lewis says, makes them think of the, what I said, somebody could throw me a cereal box on the bus and I'd be reading it. That made them think of the MST3K invention exchange where they invented serial novels, like Interview with the Vampire on the back of a box of Count Chocula. And Ibrahim Selik is joining us tonight as well. All right, so that was the news, everybody. Yay. So originally, I was planning on sharing a live first look at Old School Tactical Volume 5, The Battle of France, 1940, on tonight's show. And then last night, I got word from my best friend, Elliott Miller, that his brother had passed away. And I was sitting there today and I thought to myself, you know, just as a little bit of a tribute to Elliott's brother, I was going to share some kind of gaming related stories about his brother, Thomas Lucky Miller. Everybody called him Lucky. Just like, and I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story in a few minutes. Just like Elliott, everyone in his family called him Chip. When I first met Elliott, it was Chip. And until he probably was in his mid-20s, everybody referred to him as Chip because Elliott wasn't necessarily overly fond of his full name. And then, of course, you know, E.T. came out and everybody be like, Elliott. But he was called Chip long before that movie came out. So everybody called him Lucky. Very, very few people ever called him Thomas or Tom. But yeah, tell you a little funny story. So anyway, so that is what we're going to do tonight. This might be a little shorter show than you're used to. Next week is going to be completely up in the air. For one, I've got a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, which is kind of late. So I'm going to be kind of pressed to get stuff done on Tuesday. So I don't know if there's going to be a show on Tuesday. The services for Elliott's brother are going to be on Wednesday, so there won't be a show on Wednesday. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So as of right now, there will not be a show Wednesday. Maybe not on Tuesday. There will be one tomorrow. What it'll be about, I have no clue. Not a clue. I was thinking that next Tuesday's show, I might do the like throwback. The hell did I call it? The kind of like Gone But Not Forgotten. Turn Back the Clock Tuesday, something like that. Maybe discuss the old role-playing game Bushido from Fantasy Games Unlimited. DB says, Jeff, your ET impression sounds like Danny DeVito's mom and Throw Mama from the Train. Ouch. Yes, I know that doesn't sound anything like ET. But yeah, I remember when that movie came out, you know, Elliott was just not having any of it. He liked the movie, don't get me wrong, but it was like everybody was like, oh, like E.T. Yeah, it's like, anyway, so we're gonna talk some gaming memories in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Well, you see what I get from the refreshment counter. Oh, boy, popcorn and candy bars and ice cream and, oh, boy, sparkling ice-cold Coca-Cola. Oh, boy, that tastes good. Have you been to the refreshment counter?
Remember, your favorite snack will taste especially good with world-famous ice-cold Coca-Cola.
As soon as we can, let's flick our Bics.
That's all you ever want to do, but it's against the rules. And anyway, I'm hungry.
Now that you mention it, something to munch on will go great with the flick.
Just bring plenty of popcorn, soft drinks, and candy. Yum.
Are you sure that'll last you through the entire flick?
Maybe not. So order large size of everything and get doubles.
Oh, gosh.
It's okay. The intermission's coming up. You won't miss a thing.
Yesterday is today. Men and women have found a wonderful way of life in our own Cascades. See the Cascades, bright and snow-topped, where the cool streams bubble through the trees, down to valleys warm and friendly, green fields ripening in the breeze. From the Cascade Valley harvest comes the beer, cool and bright as the mountain glades. For a blitz, you'll know the pleasure of the life in our great Cascade. Pour yourself a glass of the Cascades. Blitz.
Give me the eggs and no Wilkins coffee.
Give him the eggs, boys. A meal without Wilkins is a mess.
I'm Vincent Price. You're invited to my party in the house on Haunted Hill, where so far the ghosts have murdered only 7 people. So won't you come and make it 8? There'll be food and drink and ghosts for all, and perhaps a few murders, perhaps yours. The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me in the house on Haunted Hill? Hurry, or you'll be late for your own funeral.
From here on out, every episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch is going to feature Emergo. Yes, because a ghost on a string just went kind of floating over everybody in the audience, I believe. And Pip has joined us in chat. Welcome aboard. So on all the live shows, I always like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. So tip of the cap to Ben Oldthwaite, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Talzek, Peaceful Porcupine, William King, The Tabletop, Scholar, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Letman, Gustavo Cavalho, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Fire Drift, Pete Strakolich, Dan Webb, Tessie Trekkie, Agile Monk, The Madman, and Flint Fireforge. Thank you very, very kindly. Okay, so tonight, for those of you tuned in maybe a little bit late, my best friend Elliott's brother, Thomas Lucky, passed away yesterday. And I just kind of want to pay, just a little bit of tribute the way I possibly can, right? And it's funny, he was a little bit of a gamer. And the reason why I say that is when I first met Elliott, I met Elliott on the second day of my freshman year in high school. In fact, I think it was kind of officially the first day, because the first day was kind of an orientation or something like that. So anyway, so we got to be friendly in that. And, within about a week or two, he invited me to come on over to his house. So it's like, okay. So I went over. He was the only 14-year-old that I could possibly imagine who actually had his own furnished apartment. So his family owned, a house, and they had like half of the basement was furnished. The other half was, typical kind of basement with the washing machine, dryer, stuff like that. But he had like an apartment. So he had like it was like all one big room, but he had a bathroom and he had an area where it was his bedroom. He had a bar, no liquor or anything, but there was a bar there. And then he also had almost like a living room area. So it was really wild, right? So he had Avalon Hill games. So he had like outdoor survival. That's the only reason why I know how bad outdoor survival was, because I played it because Elliott had it. And it turned out it was his brother's. It was Lucky's game. In fact, he had a few Avalon Hill games like Win Place and Show. Or is it Win Place or Show? I think it's Win Place or Show. And he also had like Pay Dirt. I remember that. Faxon 5. Elliott said he seems to recall Faxon 5. In fact, he said he still got the copy of Win Place or Show. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's sweet. So anyway, so his brother was a little bit of a gamer, but his brother was also like 14 or 15 years older than Elliott. So he actually lived in the apartment above the house. So in Chicago, in a lot of neighborhoods, in fact, my family owned a house just like this. You had your main house on the first level, and then, of course, a basement. I know a lot of people out west have never seen a basement because it's not necessarily a concept that's, especially like Arizona. I think I ran into one person who had built a house and it had a basement. I was like, holy shit. So you got a basement? Anywho, so, on occasion, his brother would come down and he had a friend named Russell who was a gamer. I'm pretty sure Russell played D&D. Almost positive he played Dungeons and Dragons, but he was a gamer. So he would come down from time to time with Russell. And there are a couple of gaming stories I remember. And, well, actually, you know what? I'll tell you kind of a funny story. The last time I saw Elliott's brother Lucky was, sadly enough, at Elliott's father's wake. And I saw him, I recognized him, and I, probably hadn't seen him in 20 years, maybe even more than that. And so I walked up, I said hello to him, and he kind of was giving me a look like he wasn't sure who I was. And I said, yeah, I'm Elliott's friend from way back. I mean, we've been friends forever. And he kind of kept giving me sort of a weird look. I was like, oh, I just want to say hi, you know. And so anyway, so a little bit later, Lucky walks up to me and his attitude's completely different. And he's like, Jeff, he goes, oh my God. He's like, when you said Elliott, I thought you were talking about my dad, you know, who had passed away. That's why we were at the wake. It's like, I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy? This guy isn't a friend of my dad. What the hell is this? Because once again, if you tune in a little bit late, growing up, in fact, up until about our mid-20s or so, Elliott went by Chip. It was always, yeah, call me Chip. I'm Chip. And it was partially Chip off the old block because he and his dad had the same name. Elliott's a junior, right? And then once he got to, mid-20s, he thought, well, it's kind of silly. I'm going by, the nickname Chip. And of course, nowadays, well, maybe at that point in time, people be like, oh, yeah, it's like Revenge of the Nerds, right? One of those yuppie dudes. Yeah, oh, yes. Hi, I'm Chip. So I think that's why he was like, just go with Elliott. But I thought it was so funny because I'm telling his brother, I'm like, because Elliott wasn't there yet. And I was like, I said, I'm, Elliott's best friend. I haven't seen you in years. He's like, the fuck is going like, this guy nuts? Michael Beery says, only people I thought that had outdoor survival were squad leader players, just had the map board. Actually, many people probably don't know this, but Wizards of the Coast licensed some of the rules from outdoor survival for Dungeons and Dragons, for the wilderness adventuring in Dungeons and Dragons. Yes. Harvey Chuckle says, I actually live in a basement. Basically, it's a hole at the bottom of a hill. I might be a hobbit. I've had garden apartments before. Not that big a deal. They tend to be a little cooler in the summer, too. But, they tend to be a little chillier in the winter, though, I gotta say. I've lived in 2 garden apartments in my life. In fact, I had somebody try to break in to one of them while I was sitting there watching TV. They started coming in feet first. They started coming in feet first through one of the windows. As I had the lights off, I just had the TV on because it was later at night. And I was like, where the fuck do you think you're going? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, shit. It's like, wow. Anyway, so here's the 2 gaming stories. So the first one is, and I should set this up by letting you know that Elliott's brother was very competitive, and the reason, to my knowledge, the reason his nickname was Lucky was kind of along the same reasons that you would call someone who is overweight slim. Right. But anyway, he was very competitive. So back in the day, we enjoyed Status Pro Baseball from Avalon Hill. And even though it provided you with the rules to create your own cards, we, a couple of times, all kicked in. We're in high school at this point. We all kicked in to get the new season, the previous season cards when they came out. Clantos is with us in chat. So is Kevin R. Smith. Good to see you both. think I've said hello to everyone. So anyway, I'll never forget Scout Weagle, friend of mine who pops into chat every once in a while. He handled it. So we all kicked in our money. He ordered the cards, and they would come in on a sheet, and it was perforated. So the cards were smaller than a standard playing card, quite a bit smaller than a standard playing card. So you might have had 20, that'd be my guess, 20 players on a sheet. So anyway, so we kicked in to buy them, and then we also kicked in to make photocopies. So I think it was Scott who went and just did photocopies of these sheets of cards, and everybody who had kicked in, they got a copy of the cards, but, photocopies. So I remember Elliott had taken the previous year's cards, and he had taped the new players onto the previous year's cards. Okay. So I don't know if any of you out there have ever done like sports games where you have a league and your friends all, draft teams and stuff like that. This was before we had fantasy baseball, or back in the day, we used to call it rotisserie baseball. But this was right before that started. So anyway, so it never failed that if you added players in after the original draft, they got to draft from like the leftover teams. So of course, the newer players don't have as good a team, right? So anyway, so Lucky and Russell each had teams, and we would play them in Status Pro. So I guess one night, Lucky and Russell are playing, and Lucky's team's winning, going in the bottom of the ninth, and then Russell's team wins in the bottom of the ninth. And Lucky got so pissed off that he sat there and he tore up each and every one of the player cards. Of course, it weren't necessarily his to tear up. It's like, all righty. So once again, yes, thank you everybody for the condolences that you're sending along. Dr. Waits asked, why didn't you just use Topps trading cards? Because Topps trading cards were way too big. I'm telling you, the Status Pro cards were about yay big, about this tall. Not very tall at all. Almost, in fact, you know what? They would be about the size, right around the size of the Euro card from, board games and stuff, that Euro-sized card. That's about it. That's pretty much what it was. So Dr. Waite says, and that's why you don't use the cards. Yeah, so we ended up tearing up our copies of those players and those cards from the previous year. It's like, great. Thanks a lot. So that is one of the gaming memories I have of Lucky. The other one, Elliott would be very proud of this. So Elliott has always been a big Star Trek fan. In fact, for the longest time, well, Next Generation was still on, but for the longest time, Elliott said, no. Original series. Not Next Generation, original series. And then I'll never forget, it's probably, I don't know, season 5-ish of the Next Generation. We're driving somewhere, and out of nowhere, Elliott goes, fine. Next Generation is better. We weren't even talking about it. Elliott does that kind of stuff, just like bust you up. And just so he was like big Star Trek fan. He would read like all the novelizations. Elliott is a big reader, maybe not as much as he once was, but he was like me as you know, as a kid, and then as a tweener and teen, and that loads and loads of books. So he had like a bookshelf with, you know, 100 books, something like that, at least. So anyway, and I was kind of the same way. So he had like the James Blish novelizations of the episodes of Star Trek. He had the novelizations of the animated series. He had tons and tons of Star Trek novels that had come out. So anyway, so he picks up the FASA Star Trek role-playing game and roll up characters and stuff. And it was Lucky, his friend Russell, Lucky's girlfriend, who I think that was, her name was Kathy, I think. And myself, and Elliott was running it. And we sat at the bar playing, because he didn't really have a great, like, he didn't have like a table, like a round table, like for everybody to sit around. So we usually sat and played stuff at the bar. So anyway, so Elliott starts running this adventure, and it was a mashup of Star Trek and John Carpenter's The Thing. So, you know, we were like part of it. Well, they didn't really call them away teams at that point, because Next Generation hadn't come out yet. But, you know, so we beam down to the planet, and somehow we find that there's this, you know, organism that's, you know, taking over like one of the red shirts or whatever. And then we had to do, we had to like try to make sure that each of the characters didn't get exposed. And of course, Elliott's passing notes back and forth. So I ended up infected. And of course, if you're infected, you're trying to make sure that you infect the other members of the crew too, you know? And if I remember right, I'm trying to remember, there was one person left. It may have been Russell. Because like I had said before, because Lucky and his girlfriend, I don't think that had actually played a role-playing game before, but they were like, oh, this is a lot of fun. This is cool. But as I mentioned, I think Russell played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and he certainly looked like the kind of guy who played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. But I think it was Russell who was the last one standing, and he was able to find a vaccine, a cure, something like that. So it was really cool, because it was The Thing, but it also had that Star Trek, oh, at the end, they're able to save the crew and all this other stuff. Now where it's like, oh, well, you know, now the USS Jiminy Cricket is, you know, is off, you know, traipsing across the stars, infecting planets, and no. So it was pretty wild. And I mean, I remember we played, it had to have been about 4 or 5 hours. And his brother was very impressed. I remember that he seemed like he was kind of surprised that Elliott had, like, you know, run this story. Because for one, he hadn't played a role-playing game before, and probably thought, oh, it's just going to be like a board game or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty wild. Dr. Waite says, looked like he played a lot of D&D. Hey, I resemble that remark. Laconic Lane says they grew up with the OG House on Haunted Hill. So much fun. Yeah, I have in the sale, I've got the 3rd edition of, is it House on Haunted Hill or is it something else? Because if I remember right, I always sit there and I look at the title of the game and I think that grammatically is not correct. So anyway, so yes, those are a couple of my memories of gaming with Elliott's brother way back when I was probably 16. Because by the time, oh, there you go, Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Cthulhu is correct. It's actually Betrayal at House on the Hill. That's why I'm always like, where's the? So I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Yes, I've got the 3rd edition of that as one of the board games for sale. I think it's like $10, but I've got it up there for. If you haven't checked out the sale, take a peek. Just go over to thegaminggang.com. You'll see there's a little ad sitting there. It's also like the most popular post, so it's sitting in that list as well. So, once again, I hope my best friend Elliott's brother Thomas rests in peace. So I just thought I'd take a little bit of time tonight and share some gaming memories I have with Elliott's brother. Anyway, I know for some folks out there are probably like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I just wanted, pay a little tribute. No, I'm kind of a goofball. Anyway, so that's it for tonight's show. Like I mentioned earlier on, probably be a bit of a quicker show tonight. I wonder, hang on. Any interest in me doing a live first look at the 2-player starter set of Kings of War? It is, what is it? Scales? Oh, Claws in the Sand. So on tomorrow night's show, or, we can always come up with a topic. Always do that. So Kathy Evans says, it's a good thing to remember him. I agree. I am a believer in, if you're not overly familiar with the comedian Jimmy Carr, I'll catch some of his stuff, his heckles. But he talks about, like, you die, and then you really die when people stop talking about you. So I think it's good to, keep people in your heart. So Flint Fire Forge is hanging with us, says, yeah, that game looks cool. So yeah, why don't we do that tomorrow? We will do Kings of War, Claws in the Sand 2-player starter set. We'll do a first look at that. Kind of curious about the minis. They look kind of cool. Looks like one faction kind of has almost like canine, not quite gnolls, but they also sort of have like an Asian theme. And then the other are like, I don't want to say deep ones, but they're like aquatic creatures. So that could be cool. Take a peek at the rules and all that. So that's what we'll do tomorrow night. All right. So that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very kindly. If you watched live and took part in chat, you get a tip of the cap, because not only are you getting to keep me company, you also keep each other company while I'm going through the news or pontificating about a topic, what have you. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And of course, If you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that bell. And if you do ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications, because that way YouTube is supposed to not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, most Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. It's also supposed to inform you when I share other videos, such as my recent unboxing and first look at Hunt for Blackbeard from Fort Circle Games. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.